Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside every week, of course, is none other than Legends Tour player and LPGA professional Cindy Miller. And, of course, we are the hosts of the Women of Golf Show, and welcome this Tuesday morning, December 6, 2016. And welcome, Cindy, as well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ted. Getting ready
glad
for Christmas.
To be here. And it's coming fast, let me tell you. Believe me, it's coming fast. Let me just a quick couple announcements, Cindy, and then we'll get right into the show. We've got lots of good stuff happening this morning, so we want to make sure that we get right to it. But obviously, we're live every Tuesday mornings, unless otherwise stated. Go to blogtalkradio.com and type in Women of Golf, and that will take you to our page, which will have the featured show, which is airing Tuesdays from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you can't reach us during the live broadcast, just go to that link, blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf, and just scroll down to the on-demand section. And all of our programs, of course, are auto-recorded, so you can listen to the recorded version when it's convenient for you. But for those of you joining us live this morning, thank you as always, and we appreciate your support. Also, you can go to itunes.com. Under the podcast section, just type in Women of Golf, and that will take you to the page there through iTunes. Would love to hear from you. As we mentioned last week, again, would love to get some feedback on the show. You're certainly welcome to call into the program by calling area code 347-945-5855, or you can reach out to Cindy or myself, and our emails are cindy@cindymillergolf.com, and mine, of course, is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you're somebody in the golf industry, whether you're a player, a teacher professional, a coach, or some other area, maybe an entrepreneur in the golf industry, please reach out to us, and we'll do what we can to get you on the show here in the new year. We've only got one more show after this, which is next week, and then we're going to be closing off for the rest of the 2016 season, and then we'll be picking up probably about the middle, I think, Cindy, of January, give us a good long break and get recouped for 2017, and then we'll be right back in it. So, but we're glad, again, that you joined us this morning. And Cindy, we've got a great show this morning. We're going to talk about our discussion this week is going to be the 5 mental keys to make your next round one of your best. And then a little bit later on in the second half of the broadcast, we're going to be featuring Michael Napoleon and Kyle Shay. They're the president and CEO, both founders of the company SuperSpeed Golf. They're going to be joining us here in about a half an hour's time. So, again, thanks for tuning in. But, Cindy, before we start into our discussion, I want to give you an opportunity because you've got a great offer, especially since you mentioned Christmas. You've got a great program that you've put together, a great product. Why don't you tell the folks about it?
Yes, I developed a product called the Learn to Hit It Kit, and it really is going to help teach you how to hit the ball clean, airborne, and straight on purpose anywhere. So it comes with a small portable golf mat that's very sturdy and will not fly around, and 9 foam golf balls, and Golf 101 book by me, a coupon for 10% off any Callaway golf club. So if you don't have any clubs, you can order 1 7-iron just to teach yourself how to play, and my online course, the Learn to Hit It course, and it's all for $99.99. So if you're interested, go to cindymillergolf.com and click on Learn to Hit It Kit.
Right. And Cindy, I know, and as you know that I know this because I made a comment on Facebook here recently, but Cindy featured this product on the Golf Channel Academy fairly recently, so you can go and check out that. And I guess they just go to golfacademy.com, or where do they go to see that video?
Yeah. Well, I would go to golfchannel.com and then type in Cindy Miller Learn to Hit a Kit, and it shows
and they'll be able to get
what what's included in the kit. And the biggest deal is the online course for those who don't know what they're doing, and they can't get to the range, whether they're too busy after work, they don't want to hire a babysitter, or they're snowbound. You know, you can sit there and hit balls and practice in your own house, in the living room, you know, the basement, the garage, the backyard, the front porch, wherever, even your hotel room.
Right. And that's fantastic. And I think, Cindy, you should also call this the no longer excuse kit, how to hit it kit as well, because it's true. I mean, everybody, I'm right on that one. Everybody's, it's snowy out. I can't make it to the rain. Even if it's an indoor range, I just don't want to drive through the traffic. So now there's no longer an excuse. If you've got the will and the determination to become a better golfer, you certainly want to take advantage of this. And this makes, as I mentioned earlier, in the previous shows, I mentioned this makes a great gift for that golfer in your family that's maybe been struggling over the last little while and you want to help them along. Cindy's got a great product here. So go to cindymillergolf.com to learn more about the Learn to Hit It kit that she's got available for this year, and I know it's going to be very successful. All right, Cindy, we got I want to talk about just some of the mental keys to helping make your next round the best one. Obviously, we're winding down the season for some, especially up in the Northeast, but for those that can play all year round down here in the South or out in the Southwest, there's no excuse. And this is some things that you can do even inside. So the first one I want to talk about is being prepared, I guess, more physically by eating better and certainly drinking better, drinking lots of water and things like that. And it's important because if you're not fueling the body correctly, then it's not going to function at its peak performance. And I'm sure you can attest to that. There's probably rounds that you've played out there that maybe you weren't feeling your best physically, and maybe you can explain how important it is nutritionally to keep our body fueled properly to last those 18 holes.
It really is, and I don't think you're very aware of the fact that you do need to do that until it's too late. So just take a bunch of little snacks that are real healthy with you, and that'll help a lot. And I know that, your note said to try not to eat too much before you go out. Don't stop at the halfway house and get a big fat hot dog because the sugar high and lows will kill you. And one of the biggest ones for me is drink water instead of coffee. I'm a coffee fanatic. Right. And so not a great idea.
No. And that's a great point. Cindy, I think, and there's nothing wrong with having coffee, maybe if you want to have a coffee after the round, especially if you're playing an early morning round, if you want to have a coffee in the clubhouse later or when you get back home. But the worst thing, especially if you're a caffeinated coffee drinker, the worst thing that you want to do is have a couple of cups of caffeinated coffee right before you go out to the first tee, because you want to talk about first tee jitters. You're gonna certainly get them. And you know what? When I was younger and a little more stupid, I would do that. We'd go and have a nice big breakfast, my group, and slug back 2 or 3 cups of coffee. And 2 things happened. My nerves would be jittery, and I sometimes, and I'm not going to get technical, had a difficult time making it to the first turn before I had to bolt for the. But anyways, we won't go down that road because we're trying to have a good family-friendly show here. So, but you know what I'm talking about. It's not the best way to fuel your body. And I think if you want to play, all kidding aside, if you want to play your best golf, you've got to fuel your body correctly. And there's, we're not here to tell you what food you have to eat or things like that. But if you're going to eat things that are heavy in carbs or high amounts of sugars or that type of thing, or even heavy in starch, it's not going to fuel your body properly. And you raised a great point, Cindy, is, maybe take some good healthy snacks that you can keep, in your golf bag or if you're in a golf cart. A lot of them you have the room for a little cooler that you can put in there with some ice so you can keep it fresh, especially if you're playing in here in the South. And don't go and have that big chili dog, when you hit the turn, because again, you're going to become very lethargic. Right? I mean, and, we've all done it, right, Cindy? I mean, we've all made that kind of silly mistake in eating something that we know is not going to fuel our bodies. But with all the information that's out there now, there's no longer an excuse. Was there ever a time, Cindy, that you got out there on tour that you just maybe hadn't gotten yourself in the right situation from the get-go, and you realized after I shouldn't have maybe had that coffee, or I shouldn't have had that to eat, because I know it's
Sure.
catching up with me. Yeah.
Sure.
And
all kinds of times.
And right, exactly. So, and obviously we develop that as we get older. We realize we get a little smarter and we get more health conscious. But so that's the number one thing, I think, is just to eat and drink and be prepared physically with nutrition. And I'm going to throw in there as well, Cindy, from as far as physically fit, keeping yourself in shape. And that doesn't mean you have to go and hit the gym and be powerlifting or anything like that. But, some good brisk walks, maybe some cardio, maybe some light work, weight work, And also there's a lot of great certified professionals out there that specify in the physical parts of the game that are out there, and everything from yoga and you name it, it's out there. And Cindy, I know you know some of the people, Catherine Roberts and many others that are out there that have yoga for golfers, some great ways to get some stretches and things like that. Talk just a little bit about that, how important it is physically to keep yourself in shape too.
Well, and that it is totally important. And Karen Palacios Jansen has Fit for Golf, and if nothing else, it's just to be limber and more flexible, and being able to move. Needless to say, the older you get, and there's some young people that aren't very flexible either, but. You got to be able to move. So even if you walk, and I was watching the girls at the CME Globe Championship, LPGA Tour Championship, and just the way they've got this new exercise they're all doing with their wrists and their hands and swinging a club. They look like majorettes twirling batons, but they're all just trying to loosen up. And the stretches they do, and these girls are only 20. So yeah, it's really important that you stay flexible.
It's interesting that you say that, because I watched, of course, this past weekend. It was, of course, his tournament, but Tiger was back at the, I believe it was the Hero Challenge down in the Bahamas. And, of course, there was lots of talk about, him coming back into golf and the, issues he's had with his back. And, of course, some of the comments that were made that, it looked like he had lost some weight, certainly in good physical shape, but lost some weight. So he'd scaled down a little bit. And I listened to him talk a little bit throughout the broadcast this weekend. And, he talked about really, keeping himself in shape and keeping himself loose and limber. And obviously he's had to make some adjustments to his game in order to alleviate some of that stress that he's had over the years on his back. But, he's still able to go out there and, he shot a phenomenal score. He shot a 65, I think it was on the Saturday, either Friday or Saturday. I can't remember now which day it was. But, that's phenomenal for somebody that hasn't played in 16 or so months, that hasn't played competitive golf. That just really proves the point that you've got to, keep yourself in shape. And, he's turning, I think the end of this month, 41. So he's starting to, inch his way up there as well. And, so kudos to Tiger for doing that. Let's talk about number 2 on the list. And I know we've touched on some of these before, Cindy, but I think they're important, and especially as we work into the off season, people are focusing too hard for a score, and I think you need to focus on each individual shot and not get caught up in the round and okay, well, I've got to shoot to par and I've got to shoot this. How do you stay focused and focus on the shot, Cindy, and not let your mind drift off and sort of encapsulate the whole round? What do you do to stay focused in the moment?
Well, I hate to tell you, but it's the experience of not staying focused in the moment that teaches you to stay focused in the moment. So, the minute you go forward or behind and you're ticked off about the shot you just hit, your muscles lock up and you're mad and you don't make a good swing, and then you miss the next one, and then it's a meltdown. And so I've learned that. As much as I say the 5 second, you got 5 seconds to get ticked off and throw a temper tantrum, and then you got to get over it. And then going forward, you haven't even hit this shot. So what are you worried about what you're going to shoot? And, I know that our listeners have all done that and say, oh, well, if I bogey, I'm going to break 90 for the first time. And then you go double. And so you can't think ahead or you can't go behind. You've got to stay focused on the task at hand. And if you focus on each shot one at a time, and you know what you're doing and you're confident, you will be more consistent and you will shoot the best score of your life. No one goes out and tries to shoot 65. They may say, I think I need to shoot at least 7 under tomorrow to have a chance to win. But no one can shoot a score by saying, I want to shoot a score, or we would all be doing it. Trust me.
Right. And just let me raise a couple of points as well, just, based on some of the notes here. You cannot, all you can do is try your best at the particular shot on hand, and you can't focus on what's happened in the past, what's preceded the earlier shots. You can't dwell on that, I guess is a better way to put it. And you can't always look forward to what the score might be, what the future holds. You can only be in the moment. And I think if you ultimately what you want is you want to piece a lot of good moments together, and ultimately that's going to help you score better and make you an overall better player. But I think what happens with a lot of players are the two things I just pointed out. Number one, especially for our high handicap amateurs, if they're maybe on hole 6, 7, that type of thing, and they've had a couple of bad holes strung together, they start looking back and saying, "Gosh, here I'm coming up to another par 5. Well, the earlier par 5, I shot a double bogey and did these mistakes, and already they've set themselves up for failure." Or they start looking ahead and saying, "Okay, I've got to make sure I'm at get to 40, come that front 9 if I want to have any hopes of breaking 80 on the back 9." So they start looking at the whole picture of golf instead of saying, let me just focus on this shot. What shot do I have before me? What do I need to do to execute the shot that I've got at hand? And then when I get to the next shot, do the same thing again and let those good shots strung together dictate whether or not the score is good, and not focus on all the things at hand. And I guess that's what a lot of amateurs do, is they try too hard and focus too hard on the score and not enough on what the job or task at hand is. And would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Number 3, having a meticulous routine for every shot kind of goes hand in hand with that. Certainly your pre-shot routine on any shot coming up. Cindy, touch a little bit about that, how important it is to have a pre-shot and maybe even a post-shot routine as well.
Well, your brain needs to know what you want it to do. And if you don't have a routine, then anything will work. Therefore, you cannot be consistent. I think the number one thing most people want in the game of golf is to be more consistent. And the definition of consistent could be boring. So if that's the case, you need to let your brain know what the plan is. So now's the perfect time in the off season, at least it's the off season in Buffalo, to work on your game, to realize, what am I going to do as a pre-shot routine? How am I going to plan and prepare my shots so that my body and my brain know what to do and what I expect of it? And if you don't have that, then you have no right to get mad. And that goes back to the Learn to Hit It kit. You have no right to whine or complain. Because I've got news for you. If you can hit it clean, airborne, and straight on purpose, you can play anywhere. And most people can't do that. So, you need to, it's very, 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 very important. You need to know what your plan is and what you're doing and what you're working on. So that would go back to, why are you here? What are you looking for? Well, I want to be more consistent. Okay. So what do you typically do? How do you mess up? What happens? Oh, every time I get on the fairway, I blah, 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 blah. Well, you might be it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I'm going to screw this up. And guess what? You do. So you have to be willing to look in the mirror to see what really is causing the errors, and you can definitely get over them if you choose to. It's just how bad does it have to hurt before you're willing to change?
Right. And you also have to understand, too, especially for those of you that are maybe working with or needing to work with an instructor or coach, you need to understand what the real things that you need to focus on. And I'll give you a good example. I had a gentleman this past Sunday. We went out early Sunday morning, and for the last little while, he said to me, I'm really not hitting my driver very well, and I want to get more distance, and which is typical for guys. They want to get more distance. So I said, okay, and we sort of took a look at things, and what I discovered was He's got a very good setup and so forth, but his swing is actually what I would say disjointed or out of sequence. In other words, he's picking the club up, and when he does hit the ball well, he's pulling it left, but it's straight left. So he's obviously got a good, square club face, but his path is not good, and his swing is not in proper sequence. He's leading the swing with the upper body on the downswing and not the lower body. And so I said to him, we can fix the issue with the driver and so forth, but I said, if you're not fixing the errors or making the corrections in your swing to get you in that proper sequence, we can sit here for the next 2 months and hit ball after ball after ball, but it's not going to change what ultimately is going to happen with your driver if you don't fix what's wrong with the swing right now. And, once he kind of let that sink in, he realized that it's really not the driver that he wants to work on. He just wants to be able to hit shots better overall. So we're working on that over the next little while. But, again, people have to understand what it is that they're doing and why they're – and it goes back to what you always say, Cindy, is why you're there in the first place. The other thing that we want to talk about on number 4 is course strategy. And it's worth spending time about this. Obviously, we want to focus on the shot at hand, as we said earlier, but you do have to have a course strategy. And I want to just read you a quote that just kind of goes with what we were talking about a few minutes ago from Ben Hogan. And he said that he who misses best wins. What a great statement. How important is course strategy, Cindy, and how important was it to you when you were out on tour?
Well, really important because they don't hit the ball that far. And, if you do hit it doesn't matter what type of player you are, you have to have a course strategy. I didn't know that Ben Hogan was the one who said that because I use that all the time. He or she who misses the best without getting ticked wins is
right.
what I added to it. But I have played golf, and this is going to sound bad, and I don't mean it to sound bad, but I have played golf with people who don't hit the ball as clean as I do, who beat me.
Yep.
And that bugs me. But see,
yep.
They know what their strengths and their weaknesses are, and they don't care how pretty it is. They skink it up there, and they score. Or they miss the green, and they get it up and down, and they score. So that, again, is another lesson for Cindy, which I'm sure most of our listeners have learned that lesson as well, is that it doesn't matter how pretty the shot is. You can hit 15 greens and shoot 75. And you can hit 8 greens and shoot 68. Tiger didn't hit that many greens the other day when he shot that score. And, again, it's all about getting the ball in the hole. So
right.
You definitely have to have course management skills and have a plan for how you're going to play the course.
Right, and you have to be willing to stick and be committed to that plan. Once you've decided, and that's why it's good, especially for you club members out there that play, your course regularly, so you're familiar with the holes. Before you get out there on your weekend rounds, think about how you want to play each hole and how you want to sort of strategize your round. And think about it before you get out there. Don't do it mid-round and think, okay, well, gosh, and now I'm scrambling to try and make par here because I've just shot 3 bogeys in a row. Or I've got to make a birdie on the next 2 holes to get back into contention in my club championship. You can't be thinking like that sort of midstream because what you're going to end up doing is you're not going to play, smart golf. You're going to play reactive golf, and when you react to negative situations like that, usually you have a negative outcome in most cases. And what just to your point about Tiger, Cindy, what makes it very unique about his game is Tiger was never what I would say in the top echelon of most fairways hit. He was always sometimes a little leaky with his driver. But what made him such a strong player was he knew how to, and I use this term loosely, but scramble. He knew how to get back into play. So if he, shot into the right rough, he knew how to get it back up on the green with his next shot. He knew what he needed to do, what shots he needed to execute that. So he was able to recover in a good way. So strategy, as you said, Cindy, is extremely important. And yes, Ben Hogan was the one that did say that. I just double confirmed that just to make sure I wrote the note down incorrectly. But you've often heard this, Cindy. It's not about it's about the best misses in golf, and that's a true statement that really wins. And the last thing we're going to talk about before we bring out our guests and you've talked about this many times, Cindy, is controlling your reactions and learning to switch off, relax, and enjoy your round. After all, it is just a game. Talk a little bit about that, because I know you've said over the past that you've struggled a little bit sometimes with sort of turning that switch off and just getting out there and enjoying the moment. Talk a little bit about that.
You're putting me on the hook here. Well, you've got to be realistic, and I think that's number one. Is why are you here and what are you looking for? So again, you have to have realistic expectations. It's funny because I'm starting the Own Your Game series again for all of our students up here, which we should do again on the radio in January. But I said, we need to have a goal-setting session. Why are you here? What do you want? What are your expectations? What do you want to get out of this? You're spending a lot of time, investing a lot, and I need to know what you expect. And it may not be possible. So if you have realistic expectations, it's much easier to put your mind in a thought process of, okay, I just need to skink it good. I want to learn how to score better. I've got somebody who just sent me in their goal sheet yesterday. I want to get it down to a 10 handicap, and he's a 22. And I'm like, I'm not sure, because we can't hit the ball straight. So it's like, okay, now there's going to be a process, but I think it's good if you do that, because now you can chunk up your little tiny goals into a big goal. And then it helps you create a plan to get what you're looking for.
Yeah, and you're right. I think, obviously, in this individual you're referring to, his big goal is to reduce his handicap from a 22 down to a 10, and that's a great goal to have, but you have to have little goals along the way as you make your way to that big goal. And I think a lot of people are very unrealistic in their expectations, and I think that sometimes adds to the frustration when they come see us and say, okay, can you help me with the game? They expect some magical elixir to be whipped up and frothed up, and that they can just sort of drink the Kool-Aid and I hate to use that analogy, but it's true. And then miraculously they're going to go out there and compete on the PGA or LPGA tour. It's not going to happen. It takes a lot of hard work, and not everybody's designed to play that maybe at that competitive level. So you have to decide, as you've said many times, and I agree, Cindy. I think we need to have that series back again next year. Own Your Game, I think, was a great series, and I think what we're going to do, we'll add a little bit of a twist to it, and you and I will talk about that later. But I think that people have to understand to relax and just sort of enjoy the game. Get out there and have some fun. It's not all about shooting the lowest score. Ultimately, that's a goal that you want to achieve. But Cindy, we want the folks to get out there and have fun and enjoy the game, because that's what's going to bring them back. If they're not enjoying it, they're going to quit and give up, right?
Absolutely.
And we often hear stories like that where people say, well, you'll talk to them and say, well, I used to play golf, but I just could never seem to break, I could never break 90 or even 100 in some cases. Or the best I could ever get to was an 85, and I just could never get any lower than that, and I just sort of gave up. And I don't know too many people that hit an 85 that give up, but just to prove a point, that's the kind of feedback that you get sometimes. And when you get into it a little bit further, you start to uncover the reasons that they were there are not what they originally were before, and somewhere along the lines their purpose has changed, or their realistic goal setting has changed, and they just sort of get caught up in the moment, and the next thing you know, they're just not they're not enjoying and having fun. They get too competitive, or they get
they may not be willing to look in the mirror and understand that they are the reason the ball's going where it's going. There's the only thing that touches the ball is the club face. The only thing that touches the club is you. So, the ball doesn't move without you doing something with it. So it's personal accountability and responsibility. And now, if you're willing to do that, yes, we can improve. How much?
Right.
Well, let's see.
Right. Well, so we're going to put the test to the folks listening out to the show there. We want you to reach out to us and talk about some of the things as we get ready to prepare for the 2017 season. As I said, next week is going to be our last show for this year. But we want to hear from you in the off season, if you will, and let us know. Reach out to Cindy at cindymillergolf.com, and for me, ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And reach out to us over the next few weeks through the holidays when you've got, spending some time with family and you've got a few moments. You're on the computer anyways, I'm sure, some of you. So send us an email and let us know some of your thoughts and maybe some areas that you're having difficulties with. Maybe you've kind of lost your oomph and just don't have the same joy or enjoyment out there in the golf course. Maybe we can help turn that around for you. So please reach out to us here at the Women of Golf Show. We'd love to help you and see if we can put some shows together that will be more directed to helping you get back and have some enjoyment of the game. Cindy, we got to move on, and I see our guests are ready. I believe both of them are going to be here with us. Michael Napoleon, he's the president and co-founder, and Kyle Shay, the CEO and founder of SuperSpeed Golf. Let me just tell you a little bit about both of them. Michael, of course, is a PGA certified professional in teaching and coaching, as well as TPI certified golf professional level 3, junior coach level 3, and golf biomechanics 2, and golf mechanics 2 as well. He believes strongly that innovation, creativity, and proper use of technology are the keys to helping all golfers achieve their goals and increase their enjoyment with the game of golf. And as founder of the Chicago-based coaching performance company Catalyst Golf, Michael has put these principles in direct practice, coaching amateurs and professionals to all kinds of great heights of success out on the golf course. And, of course, his partner, Kyle, he's Check 4 certified as well as TPI certified. And Kyle Shay, of course, is the CEO of SuperSpeed Golf, and he grew up playing golf since a very early age, like many of us out there, and inspired by his father's passion for the game. He tagged along and shagged the range, which I've done with my father over the years while he hit some balls. This passion developed into playing competitive golf through college and then into a career of fitness and rehab coaching with an emphasis on golf-specific conditioning. And Kyle currently runs the Catalyst Golf Performance Health and Fitness division, along with running his own health coaching business. So without further ado, Cindy, let's welcome them onto the show, Michael and Shay.
Welcome, guys.
Hey, Cindy, Ted, thank you for having us.
Hey, Cindy.
All right. Hey, great. Thank you for coming on the show, and we appreciate you joining us. Let's talk. I think the obvious thing. Let's talk about. Obviously, you've got a great business, SuperSpeed Golf. I want to ask you, what is overspeed training? For those of you that have no idea what that's about, what does it mean, and what's involved in that?
Yeah, overspeed training in general is all about helping the body move more efficiently and therefore creating more club head speed. I know a lot of our clients, our players, it seems like a really common thing that just about everybody out there is interested in is, hitting the ball further and getting more swing speed. Overspeed training works in a very cool way to help players with that. And it's also something that helps quickly and permanently. Essentially, we use some lightweight clubs to get the body moving faster during the motion of the golf swing without hitting a golf ball. And we, through a couple different training protocols that we've built, help those players kind of assimilate that faster speed back into their golf swing. And we see about a 5.5% increase in club speed over the first 4 to 6 weeks of training with the system.
Now, let me ask you guys this, just in relationship, so people understand, because I don't want them to misunderstand and think, well, it's just about, obviously we want to generate more club head speed, and I want you to explain why that's important. Why is generating more club head speed, why is that important? How is that going to help some of the average golfers out there that maybe need a little extra speed? Explain the differences, because a lot of people just think, well, I'm just going to whip that club around, but it's not the case. It has to be done properly. Explain to them the differences and why it's important to be able to generate more club head speed.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that club head speed is one of the most, the most important factor in, I would say, the modern day golf game. Whether it's somebody that's really slow and is having trouble getting the ball up in the air, or it's somebody in the mid-range that's having trouble stopping it on the greens, or it's a professional player that, another 10 or 15 yards puts another, one less club in their hand, which gets them an average of, 4 feet closer to the pin in proximity. It really is one of those things that's going to help everybody's game. Moving the ball faster, getting the ball a little further down there is something that truly does lower player scores, and I think to kind of talk about a little bit of your segment before, helps them have more fun with the game of golf. I mean, everybody likes hitting it out there past their playing competitors in their weekend fourth. Now, I mean, obviously, I'm a swing coach. Kyle does a lot of our fitness training and rehab work. You know, as a swing coach, I think the most common errors that we see mechanically in players' swings is that, you know, they're playing too carefully. They're not letting themselves be athletic. They're not creating efficient sequencing in their golf swing.
Right.
I think those are tied hand in hand. You know, most of the time, I would say almost 100% of the time, when we see a player start to develop more speed with the SuperSpeed golf system, become more efficient, they also at the same time tend to become a lot more consistent because they start to learn how to use their entire body to create speed and power, which is the same thing that you're seeing with professional players around the world.
Right. Let me ask you this: the product that you have, and I've seen it, and it's actually on display here for those that are tuning into the show. You'll see it going across the screen. This is not per se your traditional weighted club like often we see out there for working on the swing. You'll see weighted club, whether it be an actual 5-iron or something to that effect, or it has a weighted ball or something on the end. Explain what the product is that you're using and how it actually works, what it does specifically that helps to increase your club head speed.
So,
go ahead, Kyle.
I'll get it, yeah. So it's a 3-club specifically weighted system. So essentially it looks like a golf club. It's got the same grip and same type of shaft, but then we have 3 different weights going from light to heavy on the end. So it goes from what you would have on your average driver if it's a men's driver. 20% light is our lightest club, and then 10% lighter, and then 5% heavy. So we base that all off of a driver weight. So if it's a regular men's driver, junior driver, ladies driver, whatever it may be, we're basing it off that ratio. And what you're doing with the system essentially is swinging them as fast as you possibly can in different sequences. So how it's working based on that concept of overspeed training that Mike was speaking of is it's trying to train the body to essentially move faster now in that same motor pattern of the golf swing. And then when you get back to your actual golf swing that you're doing and hitting a ball, you'll have that new speed starting to integrate into your what we call neuromuscular system, where your brain is telling your body it can now move faster.
Okay. How does it help? I mean, obviously you need to make sure you're doing it in the proper sequence. And what I mean by that is, as you just pointed out earlier, and we talked about Cindy and I in our previous discussions, and I made an example of a gentleman that I was working with this past weekend who his golf swing is out of sequence. Will this help? It's certainly not going to cure everything, but will it help using your product to be able to feel that sort of proper swing sequence? Will it help to initiate that, or if you're or how does it work in that respect?
Yeah, it definitely will. And that was a big goal of ours when we were doing our research and testing to develop the system, is to make sure that the sequence was getting better as they were increasing their speeds. And so what we would find is if you get too light with a club, say you just swing a shaft, which you'll see a lot of people swing to try to get some more speed in their swing, you'll see the sequence become off, much more upper body dominant or arm and hand speed dominant, because there's not enough on the end as a weight to actually feel that same pattern as a golf swing. And if it gets too heavy, you just physically are actually swinging it slower than what you'd want in this type of speed training. And if you do that too many times, you'll slow down. So that big goal of ours was trying to find the right weight ratio to be able to increase their swing efficiency and sequencing, therefore hitting it straighter after they're increasing their speed.
And Cindy, I'm
jump in there. Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
One thing
go ahead, Mike.
Add to what one thing I wanted to add to what Kyle was saying there too is that, you know, from a swing mechanic standpoint, there's all kinds of different things that might be going on in that player's swing. They might not use the ground well. They might not create good separation. They might not create good lag generation in their wrists and arms. All of those different concepts, without really ever having to talk about them specifically, are worked on indirectly throughout our training protocols with SuperSpeed Golf, because we have a very simple goal of we want you to try to make that club move as fast as you can down through the hitting area. And in order to do that, that player starts to actually discover and figure out how to use the ground better and how to get their lower body to lead and how to make sure that as their body's leading that they're letting the club lag behind them a little bit. And all of that's done without any, really direct mechanical coaching as we're going through the training.
Right. Cindy, I know you've got some questions.
Well, I think it's cool because what you're saying is I'm learning something without having to think about it, because all I'm trying to do is make it go faster. And I believe that people are not aware that, what do I want to say? I believe that you have to use your wrists and the club head needs to swing bigger than the hands to make the speed be generated. And if they are all together like a robot or somebody trying to move a refrigerator out of a kitchen, they're not going to have as much speed. So all the concepts that I believe in swinging a golf club are all summed up with, hey, make this go fast. And that's the beautiful thing about SuperSpeed golf, in my opinion.
Right, and one of the things that we've really tried to do with it, there's been a lot of research done recently about, training outside of the direct skill element of a sport. So in golf, that means doing training that's going to transfer into the golf swing without necessarily just hitting golf balls directly on the driving range. And we've found a lot of good success with that type of a training system with SuperSpeed because it lets people kind of get out of their own way a little bit. They don't have such a difficult goal of that perfect ball strike going on while they're going through this training. They can really let themselves outside of the box a little and start to move the body a little bit differently. We see a lot of development of better athletic sequencing, and really all those things start to come together without having to be so detailed and technical with that player. As a swing coach, I'm always trying to find those ways, whether it's dealing with an amateur player or one of our tour players, to get my point across to that player and get the result that I want without really having to talk very much, without having to say a lot, to be as simple as possible to get those results. And that's one of the things that we've really tried to push forward with the SuperSpeed system.
And you've done a great job. So tell me about the dominant and non-dominant swings, and why do you want us to do it with our non-dominant swing? So if I'm right-handed, I'm going to do the sequencing and the training right-handed, and then I'm going to switch over and do it left-handed. Tell us why we're doing that.
Go for it, Kyle.
Well, Cindy, I had you even doing this on the range down in Naples a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to show that off. We have two things. One of them, kind of the obvious thing, is that when we're seeing a player, we often see them become very dominant on one side physically. So in my profession, you see a lot of injuries or pain type of syndromes, and we found just because of all that one-sided, especially acceleration on the downswing, it creates a lot of torque in the body and a lot of one-sided kind of dominant muscular activation. And the other side seems to very much lag behind. So I see a lot of type of balancing happening in the body after they work through those non-dominant swings. So that's one of the biggest things that helps people not essentially get injured while they're doing this type of training, because it's strenuous. You're really, really going hard at creating this new type of speed. And when you were with me, you can tell you get out of breath and you're working hard. It's like an all-out sprint, and then you're done. And then the second reason, which is a little more technical, and now Mike can add to this as well, is that we're working also on creating some muscle activation to be able to stabilize this new speed. We say a few different terms. It could be decelerate this new speed, or also post into that lead side, as a swing instructor might say. All these new muscles need to be activated to now stop this speed at some point during that downswing into the finish. Otherwise, we also hurt ourselves. So there's a saying out there that essentially you can only accelerate as fast as you can decelerate. And if you can't decelerate, your body will almost keep the brake mechanism on that says, I'm not going to let you go any faster in your new golf swing that we're trying to create.
Yeah, and that's a very big thing as part of the training. Non-dominant training, whether it's with the SuperSpeed system or with clubs by itself, there's a lot of incredibly important things that go on there in the body. And the biggest one from a speed and power standpoint is what Kyle's talking about there biomechanically with segmental energy transfer. So, essentially, when you make a golf swing, your lower body posts or stabilizes on the lead side at some point before you hit the ball. And that transfers energy up the chain to the torso, which then transfers energy to the arms and the wrists and eventually the club head, which is what gives us that explosive power that we see with a lot of tour players, even though they don't look like they're swinging that hard. So when you swing in the opposite direction, you're now actually loading the swing into what's going to become your lead side of your golf swing. So you're activating a lot of the musculature around those joint segments. You're basically getting things ready to go that they're going to be able to stabilize more aggressively in your golf swing and therefore transfer more energy throughout the body and result in more club speed.
So let me ask you a question. The kinematic sequence of really good tour players, they basically stop, and that's what you're talking about. Their lower body stops. Yes?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
So again, I'm TPI certified, but I'm fitness and junior level 1. So the kinematic sequence, and I'm old, so we never did any of this when I was little, and I didn't play a lot of sports, so I'm like old and I don't hit it far. So I'm your perfect guinea pig because I'm going to play in the U.S. Women's Senior Open, the first one ever at Chicago Golf Club in July of 2018. So if I gain 15 yards, I am thrilled, right? So I need to practice the non-dominant way to train my muscles to say, oh, wow, you want me to do what? And part of the reason I'm doing it in the non-dominant way is so that I can train my body to stop so the head catches up. Am I understanding this right?
Kind of. It's a little more complicated than that. So, and we see this a ton. This is actually one of the biggest things that we see with a lot of our LPGA Tour players that we work with. So from a kinematic sequence standpoint, just basic definition there, this is how energy is going to transfer throughout the body, basically from the lower body to the torso to the arms to the club. Okay, and the way we measure that is we measure that in how fast those different segments rotate in the golf swing, how fast they accelerate, and then also how fast they slow down. So what happens, and what we see very commonly with a lot of our LPGA Tour players, is they're usually pretty good at accelerating their body. They're not very good at transferring energy up to the upper body segment. So what we'll see in the kinematic sequence is we'll see let's take the pelvis, for example. Let's call that the lower body. We'll see the pelvis accelerate, but then we'll kind of just see it kind of keep going or very slowly decelerate and energy transfer to the next chains up. What we want to see, and what we would compare that to, like some of the most powerful swings in the world, is you're going to see the pelvis accelerate, and then you're going to actually see it peak or then start to decelerate very suddenly, very quickly, and all of this happens within a couple milliseconds before the swing. So it's nothing you're ever thinking about doing. It's like a fingerprint of efficiency. But when that pelvis accelerates and then decelerates really quickly, what you'll see is this huge exponential jump in rotational velocity going to the next segment up, which in this case would be the torso. And then that happens again very soon after that, going to the arms and the club. Again, nothing we would ever try to directly coach with a player. It's all indirect drills that are going to hopefully increase that efficiency fingerprint in their swing.
So let me just say one more thing. Basically what you're saying is if you do the overspeed training with SuperSpeed Golf, you're going to improve all of the above, even if you don't understand it and you don't have to think about it, and you're going to hit it further. Is that true?
True. And we tell most of our players to never even think about or try to understand any of that. We just measure it and kind of keep track of how they're doing and if they're getting better or not.
Good. I love being brain dead.
Very good. Yeah. Well, I have two questions, guys. Number one, did you get on video your session with Cindy a couple of weeks ago in Naples? And if so, I'll give you my email address. I'd love to get that. All kidding aside. let me ask you. I'm just kidding, Cindy. Let me ask you guys this question though. Again, the differences between men and women with your product. Is it an adjustable product that because obviously there are physical differences between men and women. Men tend to be not in every case, but tend to be a little physically stronger. How do you decide? Okay, if this particular product here is going to be for this person. I'm 6'4" as an example, and about 200 pounds, fairly lean. Cindy, is I don't know your height, but a little bit shorter
5'6".
maybe not quite. Okay, so maybe not quite as strong as me. Is this a product that you can be adjusted for the differences between her and I? Let's say as an example, and what needs to be done?
Yeah, we have multiple systems, and we base it actually more on your own current driver. So that's more of what we're looking at instead of actually the person as much. With the men's set, we base it on just a standard men's driver. So generally most men out there are playing a 60 to 65 gram shaft and then just a standard head and grip. Tour players may be a little different, long drivers, that type of thing. So we just based our weighting structure for the men's set off of that. So for you, Ted, you would use our men's set no matter if you're 5'6" or 6'5". It's whatever kind of driver you're going to be in, which would be generally like a 44 to 45 inch driver. And then for Cindy or other women, a lot of times they have a lighter shaft. Not all women, maybe collegiate women might play a men's driver with a men's shaft, but for Cindy, she may play a 50 gram shaft or 55 gram shaft in a lighter head, maybe a thinner grip. And so what we do there is we based our women's set off of kind of more of a standard women's driver. So it'll be a little bit lighter through the lightest club, but our two clubs in that system that will be her heavier clubs will also be the same in your set. So we didn't try to make it too complicated by differing the sets, but we wanted to make sure to keep that weighting structure I spoke of in the beginning, where it goes from a 20% lighter club, 10% lighter club, and 5% heavy, at least fairly accurately around there. And then our junior sets, we have scale within that as well. So we're just launching 2 new junior sets for ages 5 to 7 and 8 to 10-year-olds next week, actually. But yeah, we tried to cover all the kind of the bases there and make that weighting structure accurate within their own driver.
Now, you indicate that, and thank you for answering that. You indicate in your promotions and that you're obviously working with a number of touring professionals. What's been some of the feedback that you guys have gotten from the tour players with respect to the SuperSpeed golf products and that? What's been some of the feedback so far from tour?
Yeah, Mike and I have been out on multiple tours over this past year and a half. Definitely, if it's a Symetra Tour, Web.com, PGA Tour, and LPGA, we've been interacting with so many players with this, and we get multiple calls or emails each week, just kind of inquiring about it and how they can access our training with it. And we've seen great success across the board throughout all tours, men and women. It actually seems to be about the same with amateurs. So I get that question: are pros getting different results than amateurs? And we really don't see that. We see all across the board really big increases in club head speed, no matter kind of the level or playing ability that you're working with. But we've had some really good success stories after about a year and a half now of getting to see some of these players over a long-term period. And we've had jumps now on women and men from 10 to 15 miles an hour in club head speed since starting that without messing up mechanics, and essentially their whole game still where they want it, not hitting it more crooked with this new speed.
Now, who
from our tour players? My favorite reaction from our tour players is actually after they start going through the system, and most of them have some type of launch monitor sitting there, and go back and measure their driver speed, and it jumps up 6 or 7 miles an hour right off the bat, and they just kind of look down and they're like, "Did you change something? Like, did you change a setting?" Like, no, because it really does feel pretty much the same as the swings they were making right before that, that were significantly slower.
What's the protocol as far as using the product? Is this something that you would use more predominantly in a practice session, or is this something that you can use, maybe prior to, out in the range prior to playing around, just to kind of get yourself in the sync of things? Where do you see this in its biggest applications, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, we periodize this into our players' programs generally on practice days.
Okay.
At least my belief for warming up before a round, especially a tour player in a tournament round, is you want to change as little as possible right then. Just basically getting the body ready to go and finding out what you've got for that day. This is something that will create changes in club speed. So we wouldn't want to do that right before a round. We tend to put this into programs either kind of toward the front of a gym workout program or at the early part of a golf practice session. I might have my player on the range go through just their warm-up program, then go through their SuperSpeed set, then maybe go do their short game segment, and then come back and do some full swing mechanics work, then be on the golf course or whatever it might be for that player. But generally toward the front of programs when the player's more like neurologically fresh is the best time we find to do it. And then, again, very minimally before a round is a warm-up.
Sure. Okay. And what about as far as your market and that, is this predominantly something that you're looking to get out to the consumers, or is this something also that you're wanting, the teaching pros like Cindy and I or coaches out there to sort of add into their repertoire with their teaching programs and things like that? Is this something that you're looking for teachers to sort of grab onto as well and have it on hand as a product to use in their teaching practices?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think the answer to that is this is something that can really help everybody. It's a new segment of training that golfers really haven't done before. So, I mean, we've got coaches all over the world using this with their players. We have players who might not have access to a great swing coach, buying it themselves and using it through our online video instruction programs we have on our website. So, we've tried to make it as easily accessible for everybody as we possibly can, and we're obviously always trying to improve that and make it even easier for people to get involved with the training.
All right, and I guess lastly, the important question is for those tuning into the program, where can they go to learn more information and maybe get their hands on the product?
Yeah, you can check out our brand new website. We just launched it here 2 weeks ago, SuperSpeedGolf.com. And you'll see a lot of the training protocols up there, so you can log in and just see actually how it works before you even buy it. But everything's up there that you can check out, lots of news articles, podcasts we've done before like this if you want to learn more about it, and checking out a lot of the testimonials we've had from the success over the past 2 years of this product and what we've got to do with it.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate both Michael and Kyle from SuperSpeed Golf for joining us this morning. It sounds like you guys have got a great product. Obviously, you've networked very well out on the tours and getting many of the pros using it. And obviously, as you indicated, have had some great feedback so far. And I know it's just going to continue to grow. And we wish you all the best. And we appreciate you coming on the show this morning and sharing that with our audience.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having us. We're always interested and have a great time talking about this product, and hope to help more people generate some more club speed.
Well,
Super.
It sounds
Thanks,
like you
guys.
Yeah, we appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks, guys, and have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, that was our very special guests, Michael Napoleon and Kyle Shay from SuperSpeed Golf. Very interesting product, Cindy, and I know you've obviously had a chance to check it out yourself. And I'm not sure. I meant to ask them if they were going to be down at the PGA show in January, and I imagine they will be.
Oh, they will be. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have to go down there and check it out myself. But in the meantime, Cindy, we've got to wrap up. We're at the end of our show. It's amazing how fast these hours go by, but we want to thank all of the listeners out there for faithfully tuning in each and every week, and we want to continue to grow this program. So as I said earlier, and as Cindy and I have both discussed many times, we want to hear from you, the audience. That's what's important to us. We want to hear some great ideas, some great feedback and thoughts about the program. So reach out to either one of us. Cindy's email is cindy@cindymillergolf.com. And you can reach me as well at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. So please reach out. Let us know what you think about the program, maybe some future topics, maybe future guests that we haven't had on here, or maybe a guest that we've had on here and you'd love to have come back and have some further discussion. So let us know. Let us know how we can help your game. And also, if you're interested in Cindy's Learn to Hit It kit, you can get more information on her website at cindymillergolf.com. So make sure you do that. It makes a great Christmas gift. And on behalf of Cindy Miller and myself, I'm Ted Odorico. And again, thank you for joining us on the Women of Golf show this morning. God bless everybody and have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday here on the Women of Golf. Thanks, Cindy.
Welcome. Bye-bye.